Computer. Welcome to Faith and Calm. This is class number 191, and the advertised topic is about Jethro told you, wow, you got to be proud to be Jews. I call him Jethro, but he's Yisro. The Parsha is Yisro. But also, it's going to be very much about current events again. So we're going to try to meld, because I think that's the interesting thing is that you can, I don't know about it, but there's something special about this year. Every time I open up the Parsha and the week, it has something to do with what's happening right now, especially in Israel. So, okay, let's go right into it then. So this last Shabbos was Parshas Yisro, and it was the giving of the Torah. And we received the 10 Commandments. And the Parsha, though, starts out, the Torah reading starts out with the coming of Moses' father-in-law. They call him Jethro in English. His name is Yisro. And he was a non-Jew. He was a priest of Midian. And he comes out into the wilderness to greet Moses and the Jewish people. In fact, he came to convert because, that's what this part we're going to discuss. Why did he come to a convert? Because it seems very strange. First off, why do you call the Torah portion, where the Jews got the 10 Commandments, they received the Torah, call it after a non-Jew? It's strange. Call it Parshas Moses, call it Parshas Torah, call it Parshas Yisro. That's the name of the Parsha. It means it has something to do with this non-Jewish priest an idol priest of idols. And not only that, but he was an idol worshiper par excellence, because he says, and now I know that God is greater than all the other gods. So the rabbis say, how did he know that God is greater than all the other gods? Because he worshiped everything. He was a scientist. He tested it. He wanted to see what was really the truth in the world, who has the right religion. And he tried them all, and then he came to Judaism. So this is who the Torah portion is named after, the Torah, where we get the Torah. And then the other question that the rabbis ask is, why did he have to come? Why did he come into the wilderness? Why did he come? Why was he come to meet the Jews at Har Sinai, Mount Sinai? What was his, why did he come out to there? He was actually pretty well off. He was in a position of royalty. He was in a position of nobility. He was a leader of the people. Priest of Midian means like a big shot. And he came out to a bunch of people who are wandering in the wilderness, who don't have anything. If he had something himself, if he was looking for, nice kiddush and so forth, and he had nothing to eat, then Jews are pretty nice. They have a nice kiddush and you can eat and you can get your food that way. But he came out, and it was, why did he come out? It was, so actually, the rabbis say that they have three separate opinions of why he came out. Rabbi Yeshua says it says that Yisro heard what happened to the Jewish people, and he came out. They came out of the land of Egypt, which probably should be enough. I mean, he heard that they came out of the land of Egypt, but no, he says no. He heard what was just in the previous parsha, what we just finished reading, which was there was a battle of the Jews with Amalek. The Amalek wanted to wipe out all the Jews. That's why he came. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Mohammadi said that he came out because he heard about Har Sinai. He heard about the giving of the Torah. He heard that because God's voice was heard everywhere. And so he came out for that. This is the opinion that he came after the giving of the Torah. Most opinions say he came before the giving of the Torah. But okay, we'll go with that. It came after. He heard God's voice. God's voice spoke the 10 Commandments. Everybody in the whole world was still, and everybody heard what God said. So he heard, so he came. And then the third opinion is he heard about the splitting of the Yam Suf, the Red Sea, and that's why he came. That's Rabbi Eliezer. Now, not only why do they have to argue, but like I said, it said why he came. He came because the Jews came out of Egypt. And he knew about Egypt because he was an advisor to Paro, and he knew that it was a slave encampment and you couldn't get out of that country. Nobody ever escaped before. So why don't you just say it simply? That's what he came out because he heard the Jews escape from Egypt. So here's where it gets interesting. Well, let's look at that first case. The first case was he said, you know, why he came, why did Yisro come? Why did this non-Jew come to see what about the Jewish people? Why didn't he just stay home? Because he couldn't stay home because because he heard about Amalek. Now that first explanation is hard to understand because it doesn't even say that the Jews won a big battle with Amalek. It says that Amalek came and tried to wipe out all the Jews, and that's why he came. But here's the lesson for us, and here's the lesson what happened. What happened with Amalek? Amalek lived up near the land of Israel. He lived actually in Gaza, that area. He had to go through the whole Sinai Peninsula down to the very tip because if you know where Har Sinai is, it's down at the bottom, near the Red Sea, all the way down. You have to go past the Elat, down, farther south until you get to Har Sinai. He came all that distance. Why did he come all that distance? He hated the Jews. He hated the Jews. The Jews weren't headed in his direction. The Jews weren't bothering him. The Jews weren't going to come near him. But he hated the fact that there were Jewish people that escaped Egypt, and he had to wipe them all, and he tried to wipe them all out. And this intrigued Yisro. Why did it intrigue Yisro? Because he wanted to know, what is it with these people that he inspires such hatred in the world? In other words, anti-Semitism was this reason for this non-Jew who lived in the lap of luxury. He said, I can't stay here anymore. I can't just read about the Jews. I can't just hear about the Jews. I got to find out for myself, what is it that inspires this awful hatred for the Jewish people? Why are they so mad at us? It's sort of like, it says, from my enemies I come wise. What does that mean? It means the Jewish people, you can sort of tell the greatness of the Jewish people because all the supervillains of all of history always attack the superheroes. And therefore, these villains, they attack the Jews. We've got Hitler. We have Ahmadinejad. We have Yahya Sinwar in Hamas. We had Turkomada. We had Haman. We had Paro. All these great big Saddam Hussein. They hate the Jews. There must be something special about the Jews because look at all the superheroes, all villains hate the Jews. The Jews must be something very special because they weren't even going near. They didn't have any, there was something irrational going on here. The amount of hatred that against the Jewish people. Look what's going on with Gaza right now and so forth. The Jews were prepared to let the bygones be bygones. Gaza will become a great place. They will make it a palace. They will make it a rich environment. I saw some guy, he wrote an interesting article. He said, what my dream for Gaza afterwards? He said, as soon as, they kick out, they get rid of the other people, this is a great place to put salination plants. We could make the whole desert bloom and so forth. It'll be worth millions of dollars a year in vegetable products, just like it used to be when there was Gush Katif there and so forth. It'll also become beachfront property. They could have done all of that, but they didn't decide to do that. They decided to make tunnels and kill Jews because there's this irrational hatred. There is something there that in anti-Semitism that just isn't explainable, and so forth. How much this hatred is because there's something special in every single Jew, and the haters of the world just cannot abide by it. It's not logical. It's super logical. It's completely beyond the beyond. I have a little quote, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it here. I don't know if it's. Oh, okay, not a little later. So that's what Israel came. He said, I can't just read about the Jews leading Egypt. I can't just say, I'll stay in my America, my Midian. I'll read about their stories. I'll be a fan. I'll look at the Facebook stories. I'll hit like and so forth. I have to find out personally. I have to come and join this kind of people that somehow is changing the whole world by by everybody who hates them. It's just it's supernatural. You know, I've never heard of anything so that inspires such unbelievable hatred. And then of course you see the wise people at the universities. They all hate the Jews, and it's not, you know, everybody thought that it was the Jews were something. And you know, this actually also explains another thing. It's an interesting story. There are many Jews who think, you know, we somehow cause the hatred towards us, and we have to do something different. Israel must be somehow guilty. If we could just change, if we just give them some more land, give them this, do this for them, or something else. And you know what? What Yisro is pointing out is, you know, there are people out there who just hate purely because they hate, and they especially hate God, and they hate the Jews because it doesn't even if like Amalek, we're not even going near them, they still hate the Jews. They hate the Jews. They make all sorts of impossibly stupid statements about how, you know, if only the Palestinians were free. You know what the Palestinians do when they're free? They persecute. They throw people in their own dungeons. That has nothing to do with freeing the Palestinians. It has to do only with one thing: hating the Jews. So anyway, this story goes as follows. There was this guy named Ron Idless. Ron Idless is one of the founders of an organization called Peace Now. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Shalom Akshav. It was very powerful in Israel. It probably still is. Its basic mentality was that, you know what, if the Jews just were nicer to the Arabs and they gave the land away, then they would like us and we would be able to live here in peace with them. So this Ron Idless, once in 1988, came to see the Lubavitcher Rebbe to get $1 and a bracha. Maybe he didn't come for a bracha, but he came to the Lubavitcher Rebbe for $1. And he was standing in line there, and he got $1 from the Rebbe. And then he asked the Rebbe, he said, can I ask you a question? And the Rebbe said, yes. And he says, are you still of the opinion that we should never give away any land to the Arabs? And the Rebbe looks at him, and he says something wise. He says, do you have some influence in this matter? He says it in Hebrew. Do you have hashpah in this matter? So Ron Idless says, I have hashpah like all the other Jews, you know, and so forth. Sort of, you know, he had more hashpah. He had influence in this. He was a big macher, guy in the Shalom Akshav. So the Rebbe said, okay, if you have some influence, then let me try and have some influence on you and tell you the following. And that is that all the land of Israel belongs to every single Jew in all of history. And therefore, anybody who tries to give away any one piece of it is really stealing from every Jew. What the Rebbe basically was telling him is that God promised the land to Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And you're going to have to get permission from them. And you're going to have to get permission from God. And you're going to have to say, God, you really didn't mean what you said when you're giving the land to the Jews. And if you can do that, then you can give away the land. But the land doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to my wife. It doesn't belong to one person. It's an inheritance of every Jew, and it was given to by us by God. And therefore, there is no one who has the right to actually give away the land. So Ron Idless heard this, and he said, really? Even if it means fighting against the entire world? And the Rebbe said, you know, I grew up in Russia. The haters and the anti-Semites, they don't need an excuse if they want to hate. They'll find a reason to hate the Jews no matter what. They would do a program any day of the week that they wanted to, and so forth. So it doesn't matter what you do. They're going to hate you anyway, just like Amalek, who would come from hundreds of miles away just to fight against Jews. So Ron Idless says, you don't have any hope that there'll ever be peace? And the Rebbe said, it's not up to me or you to make peace and so forth. It's up to them to make peace and decide not to hate the Jews. It's not something that we are going to do. So the thing that we have to do is defend the Jews, because that's what we have to do, because that's our responsibility. And it's up to God to change their mind and to make them not stop hating us. And then the Rebbe told him, I think you should spend a little more, you'd find more better use of your time than trying to figure out how to give away land than to do than something better for your life. So that's the first reason. The first reason is that Yisro saw the hatred of the Jews, and it's an amazing thing. It just doesn't stand. It's we're a tiny fraction of the world population, 0.2%. We're not threatening anybody, and yet they sense there is something supernatural about us. Every Jewish man, woman, and child, and they feel that that if you're a super villain, then you feel that you have to get rid of that because there's some sort of superpower inside the Jew. So the second quote is that they said that they heard about Har Sinai, about giving the Torah. So what's special about the Torah? So what's special about the Torah is, if you look, and if you're a scientist, and that's what Yithro was. He was a scientist. So if you see a tree that lives for 600 years, you say, what is it about this tree that causes it to live so well and doesn't die like other trees? It keeps growing and growing and growing. Or a turtle that lives for an awful long time. You look for some sort of ingredient, something special, something that was always there that causes it to be alive and healthy and continue to kick and to operate. The Jewish people, as I said, are still alive in this world. There are many other nations. You can't go into a supermarket and ask, hey, find somebody who says, hey, I'm descended from Julius Caesar. I'm an original Roman, or I'm one of the people who lived from Paro's time. Yet every single Jewish person can point back and say, I come from Avram Avinu. I come from Yitzhak. I come from Yaakov, and so forth. What happened to all these big nations and so forth? So if you look and do some research, you'll see, what is it? Is it because there's a Jewish language? Is there because there's Jewish culture, that we all eat the same food, that we all live in the same land, that we have the same army? No, we eat different foods. We live in different countries. We don't even speak sometimes the same language. Nothing else binds us together. The only ingredient that has kept the Jews together is their Torah and their mitzvahs. The only thing. And anyone who ran away from the Torah and mitzvahs, they're generally not part of the Jewish people anymore. They became the Hellenized. They went away in the Maccabees. They went and joined the Enlightenment movement, and they disappeared then. They're no longer. So those who have stayed around is the Torah. And, if you don't want to listen to me, listen to this non-Jewish Yithro. His name is an Irish man named Thomas Cahill. And he says, the Jews gave us the outside and the inside, our outlook on our inner life. We can hardly get up in the morning or cross the street without being Jewish. We dream Jewish dreams. We hope Jewish hopes. Most of our best words, in fact, new, adventure, surprise, unique, individual, person, vocation, time, history, future, freedom, progress, spirit, faith, hope, justice, they're all the gifts of the Jews. Now, that's how a good writer writes. And he's not a Jew. And most Jews would be embarrassed to say such a thing and say it's too Jewish, and something like that. But take it from a non-Jew. Take it from Yithro. He can say, you can have a lot to be proud of, because you are something special. You gave some. So that's what Yithro saw. He saw the Jews and what they were giving the rest of the world was something that was unique and special. So when people are good, they recognize the Jews and they say, wow, you're something amazing, and so forth. And it's a very interesting point. And then the last point is, of course, the amazing miracle of the survival of the Jews. That's what the Kriyas Yamsuf is about, how the Jews have survived even though they're very few and they have no armies and they're in every country and they're all split up. Nevertheless, nothing seems to get rid of the Jews. And that is also a quote. And this one time I'll quote from Mark Twain, who also was a very good writer, by the way. So he says the following. He says, the Egyptian, the Babylonian, and the Persian rose and filled the planet with a sound and splendor, and then faded into dream stuff, and passed away. The Greek, the Roman followed and made a vast noise, and they are gone. Other peoples have sprung up and held the torch high for a time, but it burned out, and they sit in twilight now or have vanished. The Jews saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was, exhibiting no decadence, no infirmities of age, no weakness of his parts, no slowing of his energies, no dulling of his alert, aggressive mind. All things are mortal, but the Jew, all other forces pass, but he remains. What is his secret to his immortality? So he didn't have an answer to that, but the answer is the Torah. The answer is Har Sinai. The answer is that the Jew is eternal, and we are part of an eternal people, and we are a proud people. We are a proud people because we are, and because it takes a non-Jew sometimes to tell us how proud we should be about ourselves, how great we are, and to come and to give up everything else in his life and all his nice houses and all his wealth and all his other thing, and go into a wilderness with a desert with nobody else around and so forth, and go join the Jewish people and be hated by everybody else. And yet, you know what? That's also the Jew. That's the Jew. That's the Jew in you. That's the Jew in me. That's the Jew in every single Jew. And the haters of the Jews saw something special in every single Jew, even the most non-religious one. They had to attack them in Gaza. And the ones who do see something good in us see something good in us. So I think that the point of this class is today is just celebrate yourself. Celebrate us, celebrate the Jews, celebrate the Jew in you, celebrate how wonderful you are. And realize that the ones who do see who see clearly, and so forth, really do appreciate who we are. So with that, I think do I have another story? I had another story. I do, but I think I'll give it over to my wife and so forth. Yeah.
Could I ask you
Yeah,
one
sure.
question?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Professor Shimon, could I just ask you?
Sure.
Is when you say that the land was not supposed to be given away, was that the land that Israel got? I mean, the land that was won in the war, in the 67 war, was that part of the original land?
So that God never said the land that you're going to have in 1967, those are the lands that I'm promising you. The land that he promised was promised to Abraham, and then to Yitzhak, and then to Yaakov. And that land extends all the way. He was the ultimate extent of the land will be of Abraham will be the biggest area of land. But that land was the same land that basically the Jews took back when they came back from Egypt, and that was the entire land from the Red Sea into Lebanon, from the Golan Heights to the Mediterranean, from the Mediterranean to the Jordan beyond. Beyond the Jordan. So that's the land of Israel.
So did it include
much bigger,
much bigger than what we had in 67.
what we had.
Much bigger than 67.
Yeah.
So did it include all the land gained in 67 as well as like the Sinai and
the Sinai Peninsula? No, that did not. I think it does for the time for Avraham Avinu. So from Avraham Avinu, I believe it goes all the way from the Nile to the Euphrates.
And the Euphrates is way up.
And the Euphrates is definitely a ways away. So, so ultimately, that's the land that is promised to the Jewish people, and God willing, that will be soon. So, yes.
I also have a question. Is recording on?
Is what? Recording? Recording is on, yes. So I usually leave the recording on until after my wife finishes her talk.
Oh, then I will skip. I don't want that recorded.
Okay. Thank you. Maybe I'll come back.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, your Koach. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great class. Thank you.
Yes, it was excellent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. A pleasure to see everybody.
Okay, I have to go.
Molly,
Bye-bye. Nice to see you.
I know you, but don't miss the story. You have to listen to it on the recording because it's really quite a great story. Okay. The story I'm going to tell.
You said for me not to miss it?
Yes.
Oh, are you going to tell it quickly?
No. You're gonna go to services for your mother, and we should dedicate the class in her memory. It's the 5th yard sign of Molly's mother, and her name is Elisheva Bas
Rivka.
No,
Bas Rivka.
father.
Bas Mordechai.
Bas Mordechai. It's her fifth
Bas
yard site. She should have a lichtige Gan Eden. She should have a glowing Garden of Eden.
Oh, thank you so much. That's wonderful.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Okay.
Enjoy
I'll go
service.
back and listen to it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Bye,
Okay,
Molly.
Yasher Koach.
Bye, Molly. To
Bye,
go well
bye,
tonight.
Thor.
Okay, good.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, good. So,
It's so hard because she can't say Kaddish for him, you know?
for her mother, yeah.
For her, I'm sorry.
For her mother, yeah. I'm
So
sure
someone else is going to?
I guess so. She's going to services.
Right, no, I know. That's why I made the comment.
I'm sure, I imagine.
Going to services, but what's the point of going unless someone else is saying
And
Kaddish?
also I think there are opinions that I see women on sometimes on different sides of a machitza. I've seen it before. I don't know, maybe there's an opinion that they can't say it without they can't say it without,
Minion?
yeah, you can't say it without a minion, obviously, just like a man can't. I don't know the details of that. I'm not a halachic rabbi, but I think I want to move on. And I want to
Yeah,
say,
because I have to know these things, Shlama.
okay,
Sorry.
hopefully you
Whatever.
won't have to know it for a long time. So
Yeah, I mean, I know. I just found out I'm pre-diabetic. My A1C was.
we're not going to go into it now
It's
if you
hard.
don't mind. Okay, good.
Yeah,
So
I'm sorry. We're being
that's okay.
recorded. I'm
That's okay.
sorry.
We're being recorded. Yeah. So anyway, there are. I want to start out with the four things that I always start out with, and that is that we're in an extraordinary time, and I think everybody around the globe knows that we're in an extraordinary time. But the reason I say it is because Lubavitcher ever told us that we are entering into the age of the redemption of the Jewish people and the entire world, and which will be led by Mashiach. And
I don't see why not. Oh, am I muted?
I'm gonna mute you now.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So anyway, and the second thing is that you and I were meant to be here at this time because we have a vital role to fulfill. And the third thing is that that we were given all the tools that we need, the Torah, which is our guidebook, and the mitzvahs, which are our power tools, to change this world. And the fourth thing is and you don't have to be you don't have to be a warrior to change the world. You just have to do good. And the fourth thing is that that what we're doing tonight, learning about Mashiach, is the fastest way to speed it up. And the Rebbe said in all the things that are happening in the world, every single thing that happens it's not like it's out of control. Every single thing is in God's plan, every single thing. And not only that, it's some of the things that we see are the activities of Melech HaMashiach in the world. And I want to add something that I heard, I think just today. I thought it was spectacular. It's so interesting. Rabbi Yossi Jacobson, his oldest kid, I guess, is already old enough. He already has a kid of his own, and he already talks and speaks. And he said something. He said we shouldn't call them hostages. We shouldn't call the Jews in Gaza hostages. We should call them shluchim, emissaries. That they are, and that's the reality of it. Hashem put them in that situation, and they are emissaries of God to accomplish something in a place that, thank God, the rest of us are not in. And Hashem should help them that they should get out of there this instant. But as long as they are there, just like everybody else is an emissary to whatever place in the world they find themselves, they are Hashem's emissaries in Gaza. I thought it was a revolutionary and an astounding observation. So, anyway, the theme that Yaskel Shimon picked is that the non-Jews are telling the Jews that they should be proud of themselves. And let's see if I can make this bigger. No, not yet. Stop. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Sorry for my technical. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to take I think Eskel Shimon, can you come here? I want to share this on my screen. Eskel Shimon, I need you. Can you I want to here. Let's see if this will do anything. Oh, yeah. It's going to. Now I can make it bigger.
Yeah.
Okay, now tell.
You're not Jewish. Yes. You're not what you are doing, all of this is wonderful. I believe Jewish people have a God-given right to know that they be in this
You know what? I'm going to make it louder.
They bless the world. Here's the reality. If Hamas and the Palestinian people allowed Israel to be free and in peace, just imagine how much more you could have done for the world instead of fighting for your own existence. You can only be so much of a light because you're defending yourself all the time. But here's the truth. When Hashem comes, when Mashiach comes, this will all be over. And the people of Israel, the children of Israel, will be vindicated. They will be the blessed nation. All nations will come to them and they'll ask for forgiveness. That's what I believe. So stay strong. Remember who you are. Never be ashamed. Never be ashamed. You're a small nation. You're the children of God. And I'm here with you no matter what, even to my last breath.
Isn't that nice?
Who was that?
It's a non-Jew in Israel. A non-Jew in Israel.
Oh, it was a non-Jew. Oh, I couldn't hear.
That's the whole point. The whole point is that it was a non-Jew. And yeah.
Oh, I missed it.
Beautiful. Okay, I can send it to you. Sorry. So, okay, good. Now, so anyway, and there's so many of them. There's so many films like that. It's not unique. There's so many people around the world who tell the Jews, listen, what are you doing? You can't give back any land. You can't do this. This is your land that God gave you. And there are people around the globe that don't have to do it, and they're sticking up for the Jewish people. So, and the ones that are very, very noisy and and the ones that are very, very, very noisy and are taking up all the press, they're taking up all the press simply because they're noisy. But I don't know how their numbers compare to the ones who are becoming more and more impressed by the Jewish people. It says, it's so interesting. Our time parallels the time that we got out of Egypt. It said that the final redemption is going to parallel very strongly the first redemption. And did you know in the first redemption, by the end of the time that the Jews were in Egypt, the Egyptians began respecting, it says that they began respecting Moshe and the Jewish people as well. And they thought of Moshe as the Egyptians. They thought of Moshe as a very, very impressive person because they saw, look, he says something and it happens. He says this and this plague happens. He says this and he says this and the plague stops exactly when he says. And so too in our time, world opinion is going to turn around and people are going to see all the good that the Jews do and continue to do in the worst of situations. So anyway, I just want to tell a magnificent story. And it was told by a rabbi that I've never listened to before. I guess he's a Chabad rabbi. His name is Rabbi Zalman Tachtel. And just a second, I'm going to close the door. It's a little noisy. So his name is Rabbi Zalman Tachtel. And it's a glorious story. You should, everybody, I'm sure you'll like it. So he starts out by saying that it's interesting. We just, as Yeskel said, we just came from the Parsha of Yisro. Now we're in Parsha of Mishpatim. We just came from the Parsha of Yisro. And we just came from the Parsha of Yisro. And as we know, the Torah was given on Har Sinai. But nobody knows where Har Sinai is today. Nobody knows. I mean, the non-Jews, they have a tourist attraction on some mountain that they say is Har Sinai, but that's what they say. Nobody knows for sure where Har Sinai is. And it's really a remarkable thing, considering that the Jewish people are meticulous about recording places and times. We know exactly the date that the manna started falling in the desert. We know the burial places of all different people, except for Moshe, whom we were told it says in the Torah, no man should know. But other than that, we know exactly where the Beis Hamikdash should be, and we know and the place of the altar in the Beis Hamikdash is so precise, it's unbelievable. So why would we not know the location of the most world-changing event, the giving of the Torah on Har Sinai? Why would we not even care. No effort is made to record it. No effort at all. And so he said a remarkable thing. He didn't say what his source was, but it's a remarkable insight. It's because Torah is not associated with any one spot in the world. Wherever a Jew is, if he asks God to come meet him, meet me on my mountain, my own mountain, Hashem will come meet you. Torah is not limited to any place on earth, and God will meet you wherever you are, in whatever situation you are, whatever dark situation you are. If you ask God to come meet you, God will come meet you.
Who said this again? I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
It's Rabbi Zalman Tachtel. I don't know what his source is, but
Okay.
I can give you his phone number, and you can ask him his source. So later. So anyway, so even in as we all know, when we're yesterday I had a house guest. I had a house guest all week, and I was not only doing my work in school, but I was subbing for another teacher. And I had tons of guests for Shabbos. And I said yesterday, I said, Baruch Shalom, I don't have so much time to prepare for the women's yeshiva. I don't have so much time. Baruch Shalom, you have to give me a great story. And I knew that he would help me, and boom, he gave me a great story. So anyway, the story that Rabbi Tachtel is telling is about Rabbi Yisroel Wilhelm and his wife Leah. They are the Chabad Shluchim on the campus in Boulder, Colorado. Probably, I don't know what it's called, University of Colorado. I don't know what it's called, but they're the Chabad Shluchim there. And anybody who knows anything about the life of Chabad Shluchim on campus knows that they have a ridiculous life. They have a ridiculously busy life, and there are no set business hours. A kid can have an existential crisis in the middle of the night, or break up with his girlfriend and have to speak to somebody, or whatever. They're on 24/7. And especially in the holiday season, when people come to them, it's incredibly crazy and busy. So this Rabbi Wilhelm and his wife have a custom. They have a thing that they do every year, right after Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot, right after that busy season. They take off 24 hours. They hire a babysitter. They cancel their commitments for one day, and they go rest. They go to a beautiful location in the Rockies, and for 24 hours, they have their own time. So they booked it just like every other year, and they were scheduled to depart at 11 a.m. And they were scheduled to depart at 11 a.m. It was such a gorgeous year that fall in the Rockies. I don't know if they have. I don't know what. I've never. No, I was in Boulder, but I wasn't there in the fall. Do they have fall foliage like we do? Probably. And but anyway, it was such a spectacular season that all the hotels were booked. Their favorite hotel, their favorite place to stay was completely booked. Every place was completely booked. They looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and they found a vacancy in a hick town far away that they never heard of, but they said, what can we do? This is our day that we take. And they made a reservation in the hick town. They were supposed to leave at 11 a.m., but as often happens in the life of a Chabad rabbi, somebody passed away, and they needed a rabbi that day. And so instead of 11 o'clock, they were going to leave at 2 o'clock. So that was like a 3-hour bite out of their 24-hour window. And so anyway, so at 2 o'clock, they're about to leave, and their wife says, wait a minute, we don't have food. I imagine in the first location where they usually go every year, there was probably some kind of food there. But she said, what are we going to do? We don't have any food. We don't know where we're going. We don't have any food. He said, don't worry. Everywhere you go, there's a grocery store, and grocery stores are full of things that have kosher symbols on them. Chickpeas, something. They'll find something. So she says, okay, let's go. So they got in the car, and they ended up in this hick town. And this hick town was so incredibly tiny that they didn't even have a grocery store. It had a pot shop. It had a marijuana shop. That's it. And a 7-Eleven. That's it. That's all it had. And they go into the 7-Eleven. There are kosher potato chips, and they are hungry. And he says, okay, we're going to have to do something. We have to eat. We have to eat. So they looked on a map to find the nearest real city. And it was a place called Idaho Springs, but it's another 45 minutes away. So they thought, oh, we're going to have to spend another at least hour and a half, 2 hours getting food. But what can we do? We need food. So they drive to Idaho Springs. They find a Kroger, a Kroger grocery, and they go in and they try and look for something that looks like a kosher aisle. They look for items that maybe will have a kosher symbol, and he's examining these things, and his telephone rings. And usually at this point he would have forwarded calls through forwarded it to an answering service, but somehow this call got through. So he picked up the phone. He said, hello. And the woman on the phone, she said, my name is Stephanie. She said, I'm going to ask you a crazy thing. She said, it's a crazy thing because you're the Chabad rabbi in Boulder. She said, but do you know, forgive me, it's a crazy thing to ask you because you're all the way in Boulder. She said, but would you happen to know anybody in Idaho Springs, anybody at all who might possibly have tefillin? We need tefillin and we need it now. And then the Chabad rabbi, who of course has tefillin, said, say it again. And she said, listen, I'm on vacation with my boyfriend. And my boyfriend 4 weeks ago told his Chabad rabbi that he's committing to put on tefillin every weekday and 6 days a week and not Shabbos. And he forgot it at home. And now we're on vacation. He says we're going to have to turn around and forget the vacation and go right back home before sunset. We're going to have to race 2 hours to get home because he needs to put us on his tefillin. And I told him, listen, buddy, for 30 years, you never put on tefillin. And now you have to ruin our vacation just to put on tefillin. He said, you don't understand. I made a commitment. And I have not missed a day. For 4 weeks, I have not missed a day. This is my commitment to be with Hashem. And he said, I know that if I keep my commitment, Hashem is going to help us. Hashem is going to help us. And she said, I like your passion. I'm going to help you. And so she got on the phone. She said, you're my 6th Chabad rabbi that I've already called. And I know it's ridiculous to call you because you're based in Boulder and I'm in Idaho Springs. Do you know anybody in Idaho Springs who might have tefillin? And the rabbi is crying by this point. And he said, where are you? She said, I'm in the parking lot of a grocery store. He said, which grocery store? She said, Kroger. And then he said, are you in the Kroger that's on the corner of Iowa and 42nd? And she said, yeah, I'm in the parking lot. We're in the parking lot. He said, what color is your car? And she told him the color of the car. He ran out, he hugged the guy and, put on tefillin. And the guy said, I know, he wanted to meet Hashem and Hashem came to meet him. So, and what did Hashem have to do? He had to make the hotel that the guy originally wanted to go, the couple originally wanted to go to, he had to make it full. He had to make a funeral so that they would be late and not have any food with them. And then he had to, and there had to be no food in the town in which they came to. And then they had to drive 45 minutes to this other town. So anyway, just because a Jew wanted to encounter Hashem, when a Jew wants to encounter Hashem, Hashem wants to encounter that Jew. And I think I want to say that I can't give a session without mentioning the Rebbe and saying that the Rebbe told us, and these are the shluchim of the Rebbe, right? Miracles are flow through the Rebbe's fingers, and the Rebbe told, and now more than ever, they just keep increasing. And as the Rebbe said, the Rebbe told us that he hinted, he never told us. And some other time, if you want, I can explain why he did it in hinting form and not in direct saying. But I can even explain it now. The Rebbe told us that the Rebbe hinted to us broadly that he is Melech HaMashiach, he is Mashiach, and that the grave would have no dominion, is not going to have any dominion over Mashiach, and the reason the Rebbe hinted a million times, he said Mashiach's name is Menachem, 770, which is the address of the Rebbe's big shul. He said 770 is the numerical value. In Hebrew, every letter has a numerical value. If you spell out house of Mashiach, it comes to a numerical value of 770. The Rebbe gave him multiple hints, and the Rebbe said that the only thing that's lacking is that the Jewish people have to be the bond between Melech Mashiach and the Jewish people have to grow. So anyway, I want to wish everybody a good night, and thank you so much for joining, and hopefully see you again next week.
Thank you, Kol Hakavod.
Oh, Goldie, I'm going to turn off the recording if you want to say something.